It was a regular Thursday afternoon at Riverview Mall, a place known more for its comfort food and quiet stores than anything dramatic. Families strolled with shopping bags, couples sat in the food court sipping iced coffees, and children laughed as they tossed coins into the central fountain. Security officer Miguel Alvarez walked his usual patrol route with Rex, his loyal K9 partner. Rex, a large, focused German shepherd, was a model of discipline. For over 5 years, he had sniffed out threats, tracked lost children, and even located a missing elderly man once. Nothing ever rattled him. That's what made what happened next so disturbing. As they turned the corner near the children's play zone and food court intersection, Rex suddenly stiffened. Miguel felt the tug on the leash as Rex stopped dead in his tracks. His ears perked up, his eyes zeroed in on a young woman sitting alone on a bench with a bundled infant in her arms. The woman had long chestnut-colored hair, dark sunglasses, and a calm demeanor. To anyone else, she seemed like just another shopper. But to Rex, something was wrong. Without warning, Rex let out a sharp, loud bark. One bark turned into two, then into a loud, persistent frenzy. Miguel, startled, tried to pull him back. "Rex, what is it, boy? Heel!" But Rex wouldn't heel. He pulled forward, barking directly at the woman and baby. People around the bench stopped, turning their heads. A mother nearby quickly grabbed her child and stepped back, unsure of what was happening. The woman on the bench looked alarmed but not afraid. Her grip on the baby tightened. "I'm sorry, miss," Miguel said as he approached. "My dog's behavior is unusual. Do you mind standing up?" The woman's brow furrowed beneath her. "Sunglasses. Is there a problem?" "Maybe not. But Rex doesn't bark unless he senses something. He's trained for detection. Drugs, explosives, distress. Just need to check everything's all right." The woman hesitated for a moment, then slowly rose to her feet, cradling the baby protectively. Rex's barking intensified. Miguel tried again to calm him, but the dog was in full alert mode. Growling now, muscles tense, tail stiff. It was unlike anything Miguel had ever seen from his partner. A small crowd began to gather. Another security officer, Jensen, jogged. Over from the West Wing, alerted by the radio and the commotion. "What's going on?" Jensen asked, eyes on the barking K9. "Rex is targeting her. He won't stop," Miguel replied, eyes narrowing. "He's never done this, not once." "Mom, do you have ID?" Jensen asked politely but firmly. The woman reached into her purse, pulled out a small wallet, and handed over a driver's license. "Anna Fields," she said quietly. "And this is my baby. We're just shopping." Miguel leaned closer to Mo, the carrier. The baby was wrapped tightly in a soft blue blanket. His tiny face peeked out, still and silent. Then Rex did something stranger. He began to whimper, whining in short, sharp bursts, his nose inches from the baby. He wasn't barking anymore. It was as if the dog was pleading. Miguel's stomach sank. "Call Mal Medical, now," he ordered Jensen. "What for? Something's not right." As Jensen radioed for help, the woman backed away slightly. "Is this necessary?" she asked. "He's just sleepy." "We'll take a quick look, that's all," Miguel replied, keeping his eyes locked on her. Rex was now circling around her legs, staying close to the carrier. The tension in the air grew thick. What had begun as just another patrol was now turning into something far more serious. Miguel didn't know what was wrong, but he trusted Rex more than he trusted his own instincts, and Rex wasn't letting this go. Mall medical staff arrived quickly, their expressions professional but cautious as they approached the growing crowd near the bench. Nurse Emily Chen knelt down beside the woman and the baby, gently asking, "May I take a look at the little one?" The woman, still clutching the baby carrier tightly, nodded hesitantly. Miguel watched Rex as the dog sat down a few feet away, eyes locked on the infant. Rex's tail was stiff, and occasional low growls escaped from his throat. The dog's usual calm demeanor was nowhere to be found. Emily carefully unwrapped the blue blanket, revealing the baby's small, pale face. At first glance, the infant seemed normal, peaceful and asleep, but as she examined him, Emily's brow furrowed in concern. "His skin feels cold," she said quietly, glancing up at Miguel. "And his breathing is very shallow." The woman's eyes flashed with irritation. "He's just tired," she said softly. "Babies sleep a lot." Miguel frowned. Is he responsive at all? Emily gently prodded the baby's cheek. There was no reaction, no blink, no stir. Rex suddenly stood up and barked sharply, pacing closer to the baby. His hackles were raised. Miguel knelt down beside the dog, stroking his head. Easy, Rex, what do you sense? The dog whined and looked back at Miguel, eyes full of urgency. Miguel exchanged a glance with Jensen, who was already on the radio. We need paramedics ASAP, he said, standing. The woman's calm demeanor cracked for a moment, a flicker of panic crossing her face. There's no need, she insisted. He's fine, but her voice wavered. The crowd was murmuring, some whispering about the strange situation. Parents clutched their children closer. Moments later, 2 paramedics arrived, their equipment in hand. They quickly took over the examination, checking the baby's vitals, attaching monitors. One paramedic's face grew serious. We're taking him to the hospital for observation, she said firmly. The woman suddenly grew defensive. I'm his mother, she said, voice rising. He just needs rest. Miguel stepped in, calmly but firmly. Ma'am, we're just following protocol. It's for the baby's safety. Rex barked once more, loud and commanding. The dog's focus had never wavered. Every person watching felt the weight of his insistence. As the paramedics lifted the baby carefully onto a stretcher, Miguel noticed the woman's hands trembling. Her eyes darted nervously between the officers and the canine dog. Please cooperate, Miguel said quietly. The woman nodded, her composure fraying. After the baby was taken away, Rex's barking stopped immediately. He sat down beside Miguel, panting, lightly but alert. Miguel exhaled, relief mixed with unease. The dog had sensed something deeply wrong, but the question remained, what? Jensen spoke quietly. Her story doesn't add up. She came in with the baby, but there's no record of her in the mall before. Security cameras might tell us more. Miguel nodded. And Rex's reaction, it's like he knew the baby was in danger. They moved to the security office to review footage, leaving the crowd behind. As Miguel watched the screen, the woman's earlier nervous glance haunted him. Rex stayed by his side, quiet now but ready. The investigation was just beginning. In the cramped, softly lit security office, Miguel sat back in his chair, eyes fixed on the screen. The grainy footage replayed the scene unfolding near the food court, the moment Rex had frozen and started barking, but now they could rewind to an earlier time. The video showed a woman entering the mall's back entrance, walking briskly, her face hidden beneath a hoodie. She carried an empty blanket, but no baby. Miguel's heart pounded. Could it be? He zoomed in, enhancing the image. The woman's hands were empty, no baby carrier, no infant, just the blanket folded under her arm. Jensen leaned over, his voice low. She didn't come in with a baby, that means... Miguel nodded slowly, gripping the armrests. We need to talk to her again. Something's not right. Minutes later, the woman, Anna Fields, was brought into the small interview room. Her hands trembled slightly as she sat down, eyes darting nervously around the room. Miguel noticed her subtle avoidance of eye contact. Rex sat outside the door, whining softly, his instincts still alert. Miguel began gently. Anna, can you explain why Rex was barking at you, and why the security footage shows you entering without a baby but leaving with one? Anna's face flushed. She swallowed hard, struggling to keep her composure. I don't know what you mean. Miguel kept his voice calm but firm. The cameras show you clearly. You entered empty-handed. Then you came out of the restroom with the baby. Can you explain that? Anna's breath caught, her eyes filled with tears. I found him. The baby. He was alone in the restroom, so I couldn't just leave him there. Miguel exchanged a glance with Jensen. Did you try to find his parents? Anna shook her head. I didn't know what to do. I panicked. Her story was shaky, but her emotions seemed real. Still, Miguel sensed there was more to uncover. We called medical because Rex sensed something wrong with the baby. You said he was just tired, but he wasn't responding. Were you aware of that? Miguel asked. Anna's lips quivered. I didn't want to believe it, Jensen interjected. You can help us by telling the truth, Anna. She took a deep breath, voice trembling. I lost my own baby a few months ago. It was hard, unbearable. When I saw him in the restroom, helpless and alone, I thought I could save him. I wanted to give him the life I couldn't. Miguel's expression softened. So you took him? Anna nodded, tears flowing freely now. Yes, I know it was wrong. I didn't mean to hurt him. Rex whined outside, his instincts vindicated. Miguel pulled out his radio. We're going to contact the police now. This is serious. Anna's sobs filled the room. The weight of her grief and guilt was undeniable. As Miguel stepped out, he felt the weight of the day pressing down. A trained dog's instincts had uncovered a heartbreaking secret. What started as a routine patrol had become a story about loss, desperation, and a baby's safety. He glanced at Rex, who wagged his tail softly but kept alert. The dog had saved a life. And now the truth was unraveling. The mall's atmosphere had shifted from routine bustle to a tense and hushed vigil. Outside the security office, the woman known as Anna Fields sat with officers waiting for the police to arrive. The baby, still in the care of paramedics, had been rushed to the nearby hospital for immediate evaluation. Miguel felt a mix of relief and dread swirling inside him. Rex's instincts had been right. Something was seriously wrong. The police detectives took over. They started piecing together the fragments of the day's mystery. They reached out to the hospital, anxious for any news on the infant's condition. At the hospital emergency room, the baby was examined thoroughly by pediatricians. Dr. Laura Bennett led the assessment. The infant's temperature was abnormally low, dangerously so, and he was barely responsive to stimuli. The doctors quickly placed him under intensive care, monitoring his breathing and vitals. Dr. Bennett called the hospital's child protection team. The baby's unexplained condition and mysterious custody situation raised immediate red flags. They needed to understand who this child was and whether he was safe. Meanwhile, back at the mall, detectives reviewed more footage, searching for the baby's true origin. Security cameras at various entrances were checked and cross-referenced with store surveillance. One store manager reported seeing a woman hurriedly leave the mall, looking distressed and without a child, just minutes before Anna appeared with the baby. That report prompted police to canvass the mall, seeking witnesses. One elderly woman remembered seeing a young mother in the restroom area, distracted and talking on her phone, while the baby was momentarily unattended. Miguel, sitting with Jensen, reflected on Rex's behavior that day. The dog's reaction had saved precious time that might have been crucial to the baby's survival. Back at the hospital, the baby was stabilized but still unresponsive. A social worker spoke with Anna, carefully documenting her story, but her answers were inconsistent and vague. The detectives' phones buzzed. The real mother had contacted the police. She was frantic, explaining she had been shopping at the mall and left her baby briefly in the restroom while she made a call. When she returned, the baby was gone. The realization hit everyone hard. The baby had been taken from his mother's care, his life endangered. The baby's real mother arrived at the hospital, tears streaming as she rushed to her son's side. The medical staff allowed her to hold him, and her sobs echoed through the sterile room. At the mall, Miguel's mind raced. Rex had sensed danger in the baby, a silent plea for help the dog couldn't ignore. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. Anna, desperate and broken, had taken the baby from a distracted mother. The infant's fragile state was a result of those stolen moments alone, perhaps even worse. Miguel glanced at Rex, kneeling beside the dog and stroking his thick fur. The K9 had done more than alert. He had saved a life. As night fell on the mall, the story was far from over. There were questions that needed answers, and justice to be served. But for now, a baby was safe, thanks to a dog who refused to be silent. The mall was eerily quiet the next morning, a stark contrast to the usual hum of weekend shoppers. Security was tighter, and whispers of the previous day's drama buzzed through the staff rooms and nearby stores. Miguel felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. Rex lay quietly beside him, his sharp eyes still scanning every corner. Detectives were conducting interviews with everyone who had been near the children's play zone, and the mall management was cooperating fully. They wanted to piece together How a baby could have been left vulnerable in such a public place. Miguel was called to a meeting with Detective Harper and a social worker from Child Protective Services named Lisa Moreno. Harper's sharp gaze met Miguel's as she spoke. "Officer Alvarez, your K9 partner was instrumental in this case," she said. "Rex's behavior saved that child's life. We owe you both a great deal." Miguel nodded, though his mind was racing with questions. "What's the status of the baby?" Lisa chimed in. "The baby is stable now, but his condition was critical when he arrived. Hypothermia and dehydration. It's a miracle he survived." Harper continued. "We've learned that Anna Fields is struggling with grief and mental health issues after losing her own baby. Her actions, while misguided, come from a place of desperation." Miguel frowned. "Is she facing charges?" "It's complicated," Lisa said softly. "She needs help, but we also have to consider the law and the child's safety." The conversation turned to the mall's role. Harper asked if there were gaps in security or surveillance that might have allowed the baby to be left unattended. Miguel shook his head. "We do everything we can, but sometimes these things happen in moments no one expects." Rex sensing trouble was a rare stroke of luck. Later that day, Miguel received a call from the hospital. The baby's mother wanted to speak with him. They arranged a meeting in a quiet room within the mall. When she arrived, the woman was pale and visibly shaken. She introduced herself as Sarah Mitchell and thanked Miguel profusely. "I don't know what happened," Sarah said, voice trembling. "I left the bathroom for just a moment. I was on the phone with my mother. It was an emergency. When I came back, he was gone. I was terrified." Miguel listened carefully. "It's okay now. Your son is safe." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes. "Thanks to Rex, right? That dog is incredible." Miguel smiled faintly. "He's more than a dog. He's a partner." Their conversation was interrupted by Jensen, who came with a folder full of the investigation reports. The evidence was slowly coming together: Anna's background, Sarah's statements, and the mall's security logs. That evening, Miguel sat alone in the security office, staring at Rex as the dog rested. "You did good, boy," Miguel whispered. Rex looked up and wagged his tail softly, but Miguel knew this case was just beginning. The truth behind Anna's actions, the baby's health, and the mall's safety protocols would all need careful handling, and Rex's keen instincts would be needed again. Days passed since the shocking incident, but Miguel's mind kept circling, back to Rex's unusual behavior. It wasn't just the barking or growling, it was the dog's intense focus on the baby that had stuck with him. Something told Miguel there might be more to the story, something deeper lurking beneath the surface. "Detective," Harper agreed. After reviewing reports and interviewing Anna, she requested Miguel and Rex to assist in a thorough sweep of the mall, focusing on the restroom and nearby areas where the baby had first been found. Miguel leashed Rex, and the pair began methodically, scanning the hallways, doorways, and hidden corners. Rex sniffed intensely, ears twitching, tail stiffening when they reached the restroom area. The dog's keen nose led them to a janitor's closet near the restrooms. Miguel unlocked the door. Inside, the closet was dimly lit and cluttered with cleaning supplies. As Rex entered, he immediately sat beside a large cardboard box tucked behind some mops. Miguel carefully opened the box, and his heart sank. Inside lay a small bundle of worn baby clothes, stained and forgotten. Near it was a small, folded note, written in shaky handwriting. Miguel picked up the note. It read, "Please help, I can't take care of him, he needs someone better." The chilling message sent a cold wave down Miguel's spine. Suddenly Rex started barking again, this time at a small vent near the closet floor. Miguel crouched down to examine it and noticed faint sounds, whimpering, barely audible. Miguel alerted the security team. They pried open the vent, revealing a tiny, shivering bundle inside, a newborn wrapped in thin fabric, clearly abandoned and in distress. Paramedics arrived immediately, rushing the baby to the hospital. This was a second child, another innocent, victim of desperation. The news shook the mall staff and community. 2 babies abandoned in such a short time in the same place? It was unheard of. Detective Harper called Miguel into a meeting. "This changes everything," she said grimly. "There's someone here using the mall as a dumping ground for babies, Anna's story might just be the tip of the iceberg. Miguel felt a chill. Rex had saved not one, but now 2 babies. Meanwhile, social workers intensified their efforts to track down the babies' families, hoping to reunite the infants with relatives or find safe foster care. Miguel spent hours reviewing mall footage, trying to spot anyone suspicious or anyone who might have left the second baby in the closet. One video clip stood out, a woman in a hooded jacket. Her face, partially obscured, was seen slipping into the janitor's closet late at night. The investigation was heating up. Miguel looked down at Rex, who sat patiently by his side. "This is bigger than we thought, Rex. But with you, we stand a chance." That night, Miguel couldn't shake the feeling that the mall's quiet facade hid dark secrets, secrets that Rex's instincts were uncovering one by one. The investigation into the abandoned babies had transformed the once bustling mall into a tense crime scene. Security was on high alert, and Miguel's team was working around the clock, combing through surveillance footage, interviewing staff, and coordinating with local authorities. Despite the chaos, Rex remained a steady presence, alert, calm, and focused. Miguel often found himself watching the dog, amazed at how attuned Rex was to the subtle shifts in the environment. One afternoon, as Miguel reviewed footage in the security office, the phone rang. It was Detective Harper. "We may have a lead," she said. "A witness saw the woman with the hooded jacket near the janitor's closet a few days ago. She described the woman as nervous, looking over her shoulder constantly." Miguel felt a surge of hope. "Do we have a name?" "Not yet," Harper replied. "But there's more. The witness mentioned the woman was carrying a small bag. It might contain clues." Miguel called Jensen, and together they analyzed footage around the time the woman had been spotted. Suddenly Rex barked, alerting Miguel to a flicker in the video, a shadow moving quickly through a side corridor. Miguel zoomed in and froze the frame. The woman's face was partially visible, revealing a familiar scar on her cheek. That scar jogged Miguel's memory. "Wait, Jensen," he said. "That scar. I think I've seen it before." They cross-referenced records and found a match. A woman named Melissa Harper, known to social services for prior incidents involving child neglect. Miguel's stomach tightened. They might be dealing with someone deeply troubled, possibly responsible for more than just abandonment. With renewed urgency, Miguel and his team set out to locate Melissa Harper. Meanwhile, Anna was placed under protective supervision, cooperating with social workers to receive counseling and support. Miguel hoped Anna's story would bring light to the darker side of the situation. As Miguel prepared to leave for another patrol, his radio crackled. "Security, we've got a disturbance." "Near the food court," Jensen reported. Miguel arrived swiftly to find a young woman arguing with mall staff. She was visibly upset and clutched a small bag tightly. Rex, who had been on alert all day, immediately focused on the woman, growling low and refusing to move away. Miguel stepped forward carefully. "Ma'am, is everything okay?" The woman's eyes widened. She looked exhausted, her face pale but determined. "My name is Melissa," she said, voice trembling. "I just want to explain." Miguel exchanged a glance with Jensen. This was the woman they had been searching for, Melissa's story unfolded in halting pieces, a turbulent past, mistakes, and a desperate need for help. She admitted to leaving the baby in the janitor's closet. Overwhelmed and terrified, Rex sat calmly beside Miguel, as if giving silent approval. Miguel knew the road ahead would be difficult for Melissa, but her cooperation was a vital step toward healing for the babies and everyone affected. That evening, as Miguel watched Rex resting quietly, he realized something powerful. Sometimes, the most unexpected allies come from those willing to face their darkest moments. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions, decisions, and hard work. Melissa Harper's confession had brought clarity to the case, but also raised new questions about how to best support her and protect the vulnerable children involved. Miguel found himself deeply involved, not just as a security officer, but as a witness to a story about pain, redemption, and hope. The 2 babies, now under the care of Child Protective Services, were receiving medical attention and nurtured by foster families skilled in trauma care. Hospital staff reported encouraging signs, The babies were gaining strength, responding to warmth and love. Anna, too, was receiving mental health support. The loss of her own child had driven her to desperation, but with therapy and social workers' help, she began the slow process of healing. Melissa was enrolled in a rehabilitation program focusing on parenting skills, mental health counseling, and rebuilding her life. It wasn't an easy journey, and Miguel respected her courage for stepping forward and taking responsibility. Throughout it all, Rex remained a symbol of hope and protection. Miguel often thought about how the dog's instincts had saved lives and brought a fractured community together. At the mall, security protocols were overhauled. New measures were implemented to prevent such incidents, more patrols, better surveillance in vulnerable areas, and training for staff to recognize signs of distress. Miguel felt a renewed sense of purpose. "We can't stop every tragedy," he said quietly to Jensen one evening, "but we can be ready for the moments that matter." The baby's real mother, Sarah, often visited the hospital, her gratitude endless. She formed a quiet bond with Miguel and Rex, forever thankful for the dog who had never stopped barking. On a crisp morning, the mall held a small ceremony recognizing Rex's heroic actions. Miguel knelt beside his partner as the crowd applauded, feeling proud and humbled. Rex wagged his tail, unaware of the spotlight, but clearly happy. Miguel looked around at the people whose lives had been touched, the staff, families, and community, and realized that sometimes in the darkest moments, courage and kindness could shine brightest. As they left the ceremony, Miguel patted Rex's head. "Good job, boy. You're more than a security dog. You're a lifesaver." And with that, they returned to their daily patrol, ready for whatever came next.